Identifying Addiction. My name is Ed Kornauer, and I'm an alcoholic. And for the next hour, we're just going to be talking about very basic, very, what's the word I'm looking for? An understanding about what's going on in our lives. Chris, can we have the next one? We have a couple of road rules before we get started. But before we go over the road rules, I'd like to take a minute to have a prayer, if we could. Okay? Dear God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference just for today. Lord, please come before us and just put your arms around us in protection for just a little while. And Father, just jump on in me and let Ed get out of the way. Lord, just say what you got to say. In Jesus' precious holy name, amen. Well, let's talk about these road rules for a minute, okay? Rule number 1 in identifying addiction. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. What that means is that if you see someone here that you know, you need to keep that to yourself. You can go home and say to anybody, you know, I went to that identifying addiction class, and that little skinny guy with a mustache, he was pretty cool. But you can't say that, I went to that identifying addiction class and Miss Helen was there. That's kind of out of the rules. So with that said, we'll move on. Chris? Tonight what we're going to talk about is the truth, and nothing but the truth. Okay? And if you look up here, you'll see that if I say something tonight that you disagree with, that you don't think is the truth, what I want you to do is just immediately disregard it and just put it out of your mind. Just let it go and say, okay, let's move on. Is that fair? Fair enough? Go ahead, Chris. I want to ask you, what is an addiction? Okay? And if you see up there, if you can't see here, we're going to just identify what is an addiction. Okay? So an addiction could be drugs, alcohol, my favorite, booze. Isn't food an addiction? Yeah? Oh, boy, I love to eat. Well, you can't tell it by my little skinny self, but I love to eat. Gambling. Wouldn't that be an addiction? How about shopping? Do you think that would be really? Would that be an addiction? What do you think? Yeah? Sex. Yeah, that's an addiction. My favorite addiction or addictive personality is called the fixer. What's that person? What's that addiction? Anybody? Oh, yeah. Mama. Yeah. I mean, she loves you. She's trying to, get you in the right direction. But that can be an addictive personality. All right? Chris? Here's a couple of statistics that I'd like to share with you, okay? 95% of all people with an addiction are functional. All right? What that means is this. My name is Ed Cornhour. Okay? Not too awfully long ago, I had a job that paid $100,000 a year. I went to work every day. I was never late. Ever. I was a perfectionist. And in one night, I lost my home, my family, my job, my vehicle, and my freedom in one night due to alcoholism. That's that 95% rate. Only 5% of the people that you see at the homeless shelter with a 40 stuck under their arm are non-functional. 5%. 95%. Now, I want to say something before we get too far. When we're talking about addiction, okay, I'm going to plug in the word drinking or alcohol. But what I want you to do is plug in your own addiction, okay? So when you hear me say Jack Daniels, I want you to say methamphetamine. And when you hear me say Budweiser, King of Beers, I want you to plug in strawberry shortcake. And when you hear, you understand? Everybody with me? With that said, let's look at a couple more statistics, okay? 63% of people in prison are directly due to addiction. This is an FBI statistic in the United States Department of Prisons. 63%. Now let's really break this down. Let's break this down. 63% of all people in prison, locked up with a set of handcuffs on, walking around in leg irons, were either intoxicated in one form or another at the time of their crime, or they were, you owe me money, give my dope money, or give me your money, I'm trying to score, or sweetheart, get it? Okay. Next statistic. 66% violent crime committed while the offender is under the influence of the drug of his choice. Alcohol, narcotics, barbiturates, etc., and so on. Everybody getting this? Okay? Now, the light switch is on when these folks are committing their crime. What happens when the light switch is off? They're pretty good people. Really, truly, pretty good people. Let's look at another one, Chris. Addiction leads to these three things and nothing else. Jail, hospitals. And when I say hospitals, I mean recovery, rehab, the ER, institutions. Addiction leads to jails, hospitals, and death. Fortunate for me, and unfortunate for me, I'm 2 out of 3. 2 out of 3 falls. That bottom one's what I got left. Chris? To understand what is going on with us, to understand normal and abnormal, and why we're doing this.